This is USVI News, your Virgin Islands connection.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us for USVI News. I'm Emily Matson. A string of deadly violence in St. Croix continued over the weekend when a Sunday night shooting in Paradise Mills left 2 people dead. Around 10:30 Sunday night, police responded to a shots fired call and a man down in the Paradise Mills and a man down in the Louise E. Brown housing communities in Frederickstead. When officers arrived to Paradise Mills, they discovered 18-year-old Stephen Hodge Jr. unresponsive. He was rushed to the hospital where he was later pronounced dead. Officers also went to the Louise E. Brown apartments where the body of an unresponsive male was found lying on the sidewalk. That victim is identified as 34-year-old Aurelio Rivera. Investigators say both the deceased received multiple gunshot wounds to their bodies. Police determined Rivera ran from Paradise Mills to the Louise E. Brown housing community where he dropped and died from his injuries. Anybody who may have information on this case is asked to call VIPD or Crime Stoppers VI. Meantime, one man is arrested and police are searching for a second shooter wanted in connection with the deadly shootings earlier this year of 2 17-year-olds in Castle Coakley. Friday morning, VIPD officers arrested 27-year-old Ozani Cornelius. He's facing charges including murder and assault. His arrest stems from the January 17th murders of Odani Haywood and Johnny Ledesma, both 17 years old, who were shot multiple times while driving through Old Castle Coakley. And police are asking for your help finding a second suspect, identified as 25-year-old Ricardo Richards. Police say the victims were stopped and approached by Cornelius and Richards, who were both heavily armed, according to police. Cornelius with a handgun and Richards with a high-powered rifle. Investigators say the duo are both charged with murder, and other armed individuals shot at the teens as well from on top of a 2-story building. They all opened fire on the teens' vehicle. Police collected more than 200 spent shell casings at the scene back in January. The teens died instantly. Anyone with information on Richards' whereabouts or any information on the case is asked to call police or Crime Stoppers VI in this case as well. A St. Croix woman's arrested for an alleged fraud and cashback scheme. 53-year-old Charlene Isaac is facing charges including forgery, grand larceny, and embezzlement. Investigators with VIPD's Economic Crime Unit say she defrauded her previous employee, her care, out of tens of thousands of dollars. For several months back in 2020, Isaac allegedly wrote 13 company checks out to herself and to cash without permission from the business owner, stealing more than $39,000, according to police. Isaac is free on bond as her case moves forward. On St. Thomas, a repair work is set to begin this Friday on the Crum Bay Water Island dock in Subace. The Department of Public Works says work will start to reconstruct and repair the damaged dock, so safety barriers are going to be in place in order to minimize any hazards to boaters and personnel. The entire project's costing nearly $50,000. The Department of Public Works adds as major work begins, there may be requirements for boaters and patrons to use an alternative dock. Clearly, you can see by these pictures the work is very much needed here. The project is set to be completed by November 30th. Schools in the Virgin Islands are back in session, but some students are still dealing with the consequences of the pandemic. Meg Oliver reports on what's being called a COVID achievement gap.
Can either of these go into 20?
No. This summer, 12-year-old Taylin Carlisle has been seeing a tutor 3 days a week.
Did you feel like you were behind the other students?
Yeah, because my grades were really bad.
Like students across the country, Taylin struggled with all remote learning during the pandemic.
When your students returned in person, how significant was the learning loss?
There was a significant loss.
In Patterson, New Jersey, Talina Queen teaches 10th grade English at Eastside High School.
They were not ready and didn't really understand, simple things.
Nationwide, students are slowly starting to gain ground since pandemic lockdowns. Research shows 8th grade students made up 8% of lost learning in reading last year, but it may take more than 5 years to completely catch up. While students across the board are behind, the widest gap seen in Black, Latino, and low-income communities. Math scores for Black 4th graders declined 11%. For white 4th graders, they dipped 4%. Paula White is the executive director of the advocacy group Jersey Can.
Our children were intended for face-to-face instruction. This is what is best for them, and so they have lost so much.
How do you make up years of learning?
High dosage tutoring to try to remediate some of what they lost in literacy as well as in mathematics.
This one's bigger, right?
Tutoring, along with summer and after-school programs, extended classroom time for math and reading are helping. But students heading back to school still face a long road to academic recovery. Meg Oliver, CBS News.
Meantime, if you're still doing a bit of back-to-school shopping, it can, of course, be a stressful time for many parents, and higher prices are certainly putting more stress on wallets, too. But as Liz McLaughlin shows us, there are some ways you can save green if you still have some things to buy for your kids by going green.
Some parents are avoiding a big back-to-school bill by buying secondhand first.
I buy almost nothing new.
Kat Steck is a mom and former teacher who started Junkyard Journals to chronicle her goals of buying less and saving more through thrifting.
A little backpack, clothes for school. I took her to the thrift store and let her pick out outfits.
She's also gotten free items through Buy Nothing neighborhood groups in communities nationwide.
So I'm trying to use that option before I go and buy new.
Amazon shoppers can make those new purchases greener by downloading a tool called Finch that generates a sustainability rating based on 6 environmental footprints.
You'll be able to see the score of that product and then a couple of alternatives in case you're interested in making a better purchasing decision.
Making eco-friendly choices could make a money-saving difference too, such as swapping the ongoing expense of plastic lunch bags for reusable silicone containers.
I'm going to get something that's sustainable, that's reusable, good for me, good for my pocketbook.
Dr. Claudia Benitez Nelson is part of Science Moms, a group that aims to join parents together to talk about tackling climate change and using their voices to make a difference.
Moms, parents, they have the ability to go to their school boards and say, hey, guess what? We really want you. Next time you buy buses, we want you to invest in the electric.
One green initiative that's already rolling out. Liz McLaughlin, NBC News.
The scheduled launch of NASA's new moon rocket, Artemis 1 mission, has been scrubbed after running into several issues on Monday. NASA officials warned the agency still had a lot of work to do to get to a point where it could launch the rocket. Engineers detected fuel leaks and a possible crack during final liftoff preparations. The next launch attempt won't be until midday on Friday at the earliest.